My father tried to have me locked in a psychiatric ward, not because I was sick, but because he needed my bank account. So instead of pressing charges, I did something worse. I became his landlord, his investor, and his bank, all without him knowing my name. And the day he finally found out who I was the day he lost absolutely everything. I still remember exactly how his hands looked. Steady, confident, wrapping around that crystal glass like he owned the world. Thanksgiving dinner was spread across the long mahogany table. Turkey, candles, the whole performance. Uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone dressed up, everyone laughing. And my father Richard sat at the head of the table the way he always did, like gravity itself bent around him. He looked at me, raised his glass slightly, smiled the smile that never quite reached his eyes. Ela, still doing that little consultant thing? Polite laughter around the table. How's the acting career going, sweetheart? More laughter, louder this time. I picked up my fork and kept eating, because I had a secret sitting in the driveway. That slate gray Porsche 911. The one he'd mentioned 4 times since walking through the door. The one whose keys he kept placing on the table like a centerpiece. I knew exactly where that money came from. It came from me. The year his world started falling apart. 4 years before that dinner, my father's law firm was bleeding out. 3 banks. 3 rejections. His staff hadn't seen a paycheck in 3 months. And quietly, behind closed doors, he had started doing something that could have ended his career permanently, mixing client funds into his personal account. Not for anything urgent, not for anything necessary. For country club fees. A decent man asks for help when he's drowning. Richard did something else. He tried to erase me. On an ordinary Tuesday morning, 2 officers knocked on my door. They were holding a psychiatric hold order. My father had called in a favor from a doctor friend, someone who owed him from years back. The certificate said I was spending money on imaginary businesses and was a danger to myself. The plan was clean and simple. Get me committed for 72 hours. File an emergency motion while I was locked away. Take control of my trust fund before I even knew what happened. The officers were gone in 5 minutes. My apartment was clean. I was calm. And the 3 federal agents visible on my laptop screen mid-conference call probably helped make his story fall apart very quickly. I didn't file charges that day. Immediate revenge is satisfying for about 10 minutes. I wanted something that would last. Building the trap brick by brick. The next morning, I opened my laptop and incorporated a company. Vanguard Holdings, Delaware registered. Deliberately vague. Nothing, not a single document that pointed back to me. Through Vanguard, I called his bank directly. I purchased his entire debt portfolio. Every loan, every credit line, everything toxic they were desperate to offload. Then I wired $650,000 into his firm as a senior secured loan. Richard never asked a single question about who Vanguard was. He saw 6 figures appear in his account and decided the universe had finally caught up to his talent. Within 3 weeks, he was at the dealership. Slate gray, Porsche 911, full asking price. He drove it to Thanksgiving, revved the engine twice before he even came inside. Let every cousin walk around it in the driveway. And then at dinner, between bites of turkey, he looked directly at me across the table and said words I will never forget. You know, Isla, if you actually applied yourself, just a little, you wouldn't be such a burden on this family. At your age, still depending on people. It's honestly embarrassing. I smiled. I said nothing. I ate my potatoes. The woman he had just called a burden had personally financed the car he drove there in. Courtroom. 10:02 am. 4 months later, we were sitting across from each other under fluorescent lights and wood paneling. Richard had filed for conservatorship. His argument was simple. I was unstable, incompetent, financially reckless, and mentally unfit to manage my own money. He wanted a judge to hand him legal control over my finances. He stood at the podium looking like a man who had already won. Face flushed, jaw set, voice loud enough to fill the room twice over. This woman is a drifter. No husband, no career, no stability. She lives in a tiny apartment and cannot be trusted with a single dollar of that trust fund. I am requesting full conservatorship. Immediately. I sat completely still, hands folded in my lap. I checked my watch. 10:02 am. Right on schedule. Judge Sullivan slowly removed her reading glasses. She looked down at a document the bailiff had just placed in front of her. Across the aisle, Richard's attorney had already stopped moving. His face had gone the particular shade of white that only comes when something has gone catastrophically wrong. "Mr. Caldwell," Judge Sullivan said, her voice quiet and even. "Do you know what this document is?" Richard barely glanced at it. "Your Honor, whatever my daughter submitted is fabricated. She doesn't run a company. She can barely run a toaster." He actually laughed. I stood up. "You're right," I said. "I don't own your firm. I never purchased equity." I placed the loan file on the table between us. It landed heavy. "I bought your debt." The room shifted. Paragraph 12, Section B, I continued. "If the guarantor is publicly declared incompetent or fraudulent in any recorded legal proceeding, the loan accelerates. Full balance becomes due immediately." His attorney grabbed his arm. "Richard, stop talking." "You called me incompetent on the record," I said. "You defaulted 60 seconds ago." The blood left his face so fast it looked like something physical had been removed from him. "I don't have that money." "I know," I said. Paragraph 4, Section C, Personal Guarantee. Cross-collateralization clause. If the business fails, the debt doesn't disappear, it transfers directly to your personal estate. I let that land. Your house. The cottage. The retirement account. The Porsche. Silence so complete I could hear the bailiff breathing. Judge Sullivan's gavel came down once. Hearing dismissed with prejudice. Asset seizure granted. "Mr. Caldwell, 24 hours to vacate your residence." His attorney picked up his briefcase and walked out without looking back. Richard didn't move. He stood at that podium like a man who had just watched the floor disappear beneath him, staring at nothing, saying nothing. For the first time in my life, he had nothing left to say. That night. I sat by my penthouse window with a cup of tea going cold in my hands. Down below, the liquidation team was moving through his office. I watched them lift the nameplate off the door. It went into a cardboard box. No ceremony, no moment, just gone. I opened my phone and found his contact. I didn't block him. I deleted him. Not out of anger. There was no anger left, just clarity. Clean and quiet like a room after a window has been opened for the first time in years. The $650,000 was never about profit. I didn't make a single dollar from any of it. That money was something else entirely. It was the price I paid to finally be free.